So our last speaker is going to be Kat Bolasky. Kat is a principal here in Tucson, Arizona at the Sam Hughes Elementary School with the Tucson Unified School District. Kat has been using systems thinking for about 3 years, not only in her professional work and preparing as an administrator, but in the classrooms. All of her classrooms at Sam Hughes utilize systems thinking. So it's from the kindergarten all the way up through the staff. But Kat is going to talk to us a little bit today, share the story of creating opportunities by using systems thinking from last year and how she's going to take those opportunities into this next year. Kat, welcome.
Thank you, Mary. And I have to say thank you to Mary. She's been my inspiration in getting into system thinking. I was able to work with Mary in the Title I office a couple years ago, and we were both there. And it's just ever since then, we've been really diving into this work. I want to give you a little bit of context of my elementary school. So as Mary said, I am the principal of Sam Hughes Elementary School. We are located right near the University of Arizona. I have about 400 students. We right around 385 right now. And I have 16 classroom teachers, and we are part of TUSD, which is the second largest district in the state. We have about 44,000 students. Trying to think, we are only an M&O budget, so we do not receive any title funds. We have 31% free and reduced lunch rate. We have 21 home languages that are spoken at Sam Hughes. We're ethnically integrated. We have a diverse economic population of students, so we have students of all economic advantages. And we're recognized in the state of Arizona for being the top 10% on our state exam. But I do want to, in the 17-18 and the 18-19 school years is when we were able to achieve in the top 10% of the state of Arizona. Fun fact going into my story, as we entered COVID in March 2019, we had 45 working laptops that could support Zoom. Okay, we had 45 working laptops, and that was for staff and students. So just like all leaders across America, I sat thinking, how am I going to run a school in the middle of a pandemic? What am I going to do? How will we reach students without devices? What about internet connection? If we return to campus, how I keep everyone safe and healthy? Do teachers have devices that can handle platforms? What will online kindergarten look like? And I was able to stop and say, whoa, Kat, your thoughts right now are connected completely and solely in your circle of concern. You need to shift your, I need to channel Mary. Mary's always in my head. And I said, you need to shift to your circle of influence. What can you do in the middle of a pandemic? And what I really was able to do is I got out my habit cards. They're always with me, and I was thumbing through them. And the biggest one that I really wanted to talk about today is that structure generates behavior. So if you could pull out that card and kind of look through it as I'm talking, that'll really help you see that in my mind, in a world of so many uncontrollable variables, so many things that were out of my control, what could I do for my staff? I could create structures that would give them something to hold on to. And the first structure that I put into place was really trying to find a time that we could connect. We were all at home. We were all at different locations. What could we do? So I started scheduling weekly voluntary Zoom meetings. And in these meetings, teachers could come when they wanted. They got to hear the update of what information was happening at the district level, where were they in terms of their thoughts. It really helped me be able to give them a sense of place when we were so spread out. It gave them access to information. It let me assess my staff mentally, physically, their health, and emotionally. Where are they right now as we're moving into this work? And I also created a feedback loop. So I got a directive from the district, and then I would bring it to my staff and I'd say, okay, where is their mindset? What is their mental model about that? And then it would change the work on how we would move forward. So this feedback loop became a part of these weekly meetings. So my teachers were off contract. We hadn't even started the 2021 school year yet, but we were meeting on a consistent basis to provide that structure and sense of place. So the next structure that I put into is after the March to May debacle, of trying to figure out what Zoom was and really figuring out that at the end of the 2020 school year, we decided that was really hard to manage 16 different schedules. So as the instructional leader, I said, we're going to put together an instructional schedule, and it's going to be consistent, it's going to be fair, and it's going to be unified across our whole school. So what we did was, in order to handle remote instruction, because we stayed remote as a district for 3 full quarters. So first, second, and third quarter last year, we were remote fully, completely. We had some at-risk students that were on our campus, but I had 11. The rest of my 400 student body was at home, right? So we had 3 scheduled Zoom sessions a day. We did a 9 o'clock, a 10:15, and a 1 o'clock. And in between the 10:15 that ended at 11, from 11 to 1, our students had an asynchronous work time. Teachers then could plan, office hours and meet with kids if they needed to. They were available to parents. It also gave me a chance. I had a structured time in the day. Every day I could meet with a grade level team if I needed to. And so we really were able to, capitalize on this unified schedule. It relieved pressure between teachers. They weren't concerned about, I'm not doing enough or I'm doing too little. Everybody knew exactly what everyone else was doing. Families at home knew when kids needed to sit down in front of their computers. It was just this huge way to bring our community together. Little did I really know that one thing, creating the structure of the instructional schedule, would really drive our work. Truly, that's how I'm bridging to next year. When that schedule came together, teachers had to do a lot of thinking. They had to think about equity in instruction. Because our schedules are aligned, they had to really think, what was most important to teach and what's that going to look like? It helped me with pacing and stamina with my teachers. We could get through 3 Zoom sessions a day, right? We knew we could do that. We knew we could really monitor our energy and know that we expected everyone to show up during those times. But it really helped their instructional decision-making. The highly leveraging of standards, that really meant something now. What had to be taught in these 3 45-minute sessions? What is good to know and what is nice to know, right? What has to be taught in this time? I saw gradual release of control. So teachers learned that they didn't have to do all the talking. They didn't have to do all the work. They could provide an entry point for students, and then the students could take it from there. We saw so much differentiation, so much individualization of instruction for students, project-based learning. Kids were able to take an idea and run with it with an inquiry project. So student ownership and agency was exponentially present now. So moving forward, I would have to say that schedule and that concept of creating a structure in the unknown really is able to help us, move forward thinking, what's going to happen? So my biggest fear, and I was talking to Mary about this, is we're going to return to the building and we're going to fall into old practices. The gradual release of control, the student agency, it's going to go away. So what can I do as a leader to keep that from happening? And so I'm really interested in starting the school year with a huge reflection piece and looking at behavior over time. My hope and fear, right? My hope is that we stay in this instructional innovation, but my fear is that we're going to fall back into old practices. So I'm going to get their cards out on their our meeting back, and we're going to go through just some really deep reflection that's intentional and thoughtful about what they've done to become instructional innovators in the scope of pandemic, right? Of COVID. COVID is a great instructional and innovator. We've really been able to hone our practices. So the first one I'm going to ask them to do is mental models. I'm going to ask them, what is your mental model now? The role as a teacher, right? What is the teacher's role in instruction? What is the student's role in instruction, and how has that changed? The next one I'm going to ask them to do is see the big picture. What does learning look like now? It's very different. We've been forced to rethink that. So as we return to the campus, what does it look like when we return? What is going to stay? What did we really like? What do we not want to lose hold of? What do we want to maybe continue to modify and improve? The next one, thinking about the big picture, how are the standards leveraged? I can't talk right now. I'm so excited about this work, but how are we leveraging standards? We have curriculum maps, we have, pacing calendars, but what did that really mean in the scope of last year? And I will have to say, just a caveat, that our achievement did not change at Sam Hughes. We were maybe within 1 percentage point of where we were in the 1920 school year, and even the 18-19 school year. So our academic performance was consistent, even in the time of COVID during remote instruction. So how did we leverage those standards? How did we continue to do well on the district benchmarks? The next one we're going to do is change over time. Looking directly at our instructional practices, teacher talk time. What do we used to do? What are we doing now? DOK, the depth of knowledge, the work that I saw the teachers and the kids engaged in was amazing. Gone are the days of knowledge and recall. They can Google that. They can open another window and get any fact or anything piece of information that you need. But what are they going to do with it? How are we going to continue to encourage them to analyze, synthesize, and produce things? So we're really going to look at change over time of our understanding of DOK. How are we taking knowledge of what the kids are learning? What do our assessment practices look like? Is it going to always be paper pencil? Or is it now going to be project-based portfolios or actual performance assessments? And the last two that I want to talk about is making meaningful connections. How did we connect student engagement to our student achievement, right? So when engagement went up, our achievement stayed consistent. And how did student agency really affect student achievement? When the students feel like they own their learning, what is the result of that? So really looking at those meaningful connections. And finally, the changes in perspectives. Really, truly diving into, I really want to spend time with them, looking at the evolution of the role of the teacher. For the first time in our COVID pandemic, teachers got to take a step back and let the learning happen at the responsibility of the students. And it was great. And they got to see it. It was the best project-based learning for the teachers. They were given a goal, they were given some materials, and then they were able to work through the tensions and really have a great product at the end. And so we're really going to be talking about those reflections moving forward. Just want to make sure I'm hitting everything. And then I want to talk about our goal gap tool. So we're going to set a goal after doing that reflection. And I'm really hopeful that once we have that goal, it'll be, leveraged on types of learning activities that are good for kids, DOK of the activities, and increased student agency. But then once we have that goal, we're going to have to move into what are the gaps to get us there. So those are how we're going to bridge our gap from COVID. And I'm sorry if I spoke too fast. I am so excited about the school year starting and returning to having my staff with me. Mary knows I have the iceberg in my office. The habit cards are always out. It just kind of really guides the conversations that I have with my teachers. So that's how I'm bridging the COVID pandemic into the 21-22 school year.